The world's first fully automated telephone intercept system, which knew what number you were calling and could tell you the new number if one was available, happened to be a thing of beauty.
The number you have reached, 486-9968, has been disconnected. 486-9968 has been disconnected. If you need assistance, you may stay on the line, and an operator will answer.
The announcements were made by the Autochron company, whose main business was time and weather announcing. This was so beautifully done with a great announcer, Jane Barbie, that it has become a classic, and I can truly say no other telephone intercept system has ever sounded as good, even to this day, even with digital technology. For this reason, a lot of the listeners to the old phone tapes will actually re-simulate AIS reports. That's what it was called, the Western Electric AIS, Automatic Intercept System. People will actually take the old tapes and piece them together into custom reports. That is what this recording is about, and suffice it to say, this is for serious fans. Recently, one of my listeners put together an AIS report for a particular phone number using material from my old tapes. Well, it didn't quite sound right. I said to him, hey, well, send me the raw materials you've used to put this together, and I'll show you how it's done. Well, he sent me his raw materials, and therein lies the problem. Now, I don't want to single this particular guy out. It's a mistake that anybody could make. Even I did make this mistake. Back in the 1970s, I wanted to put together a master of all the AIS individual phrases, the number you have reached, 1, 2, etc. And I made the mistake of clipping them out individually out of context. The result was something that could not be used. I'll show you what I mean.
Special operator, what number you dial?
355-4321.
The number you have reached, 355-4321, has been changed. The new number is in Woodstock, 926-8001. Please make a note of it. 355.
So here we have plenty of phrases that could be clipped out and harvested to be put into other reports. So let's see, let's take the number you have reached.
The number you have reached.
Okay, so now I have it in its own little file so that anytime I need that phrase, I've got...
The number you have reached.
Okay, now let's get some of the digits.
3.
There's a level inflection 3.
5.
Level inflection 5.
5.
Downward inflection 5.
4.
Level inflection 4.
2.
Level inflection 2.
1.
Downward inflection 1. How about has been changed?
Has been changed.
And let's not forget there's a space right before the number is said and in the middle of the phone number, so let's get a space. There we go. Now, I've clipped these out, and I ought to be able to put them together and have it sound right, right? So instead of 355-4321, let's make it say 555-2341. Why not? So it's the number you have reached.
The number you have reached.
Space. Level inflection 5.
5.
And again.
5.
Downward inflection 5.
5.
Space. Level 2.
2.
Level 3.
3.
Level 4.
4.
Downward 1.
1.
Has been changed.
Has been changed.
Put those together and you get...
The number you have reached, 555-2341, has been changed. The number you have reached, 555-2341, has been changed.
You know, that did not sound anywhere near as bad as I was hoping it would. What I was trying to demonstrate is that if you do it this way, it's not going to sound right. Well, that doesn't sound right, but it didn't sound that bad. However, if you know what the old system sounded like, this is so obviously a splice-up that it would never pass for authentic. And there are two reasons for this. Number one, in the old days, they didn't have digital announcements. These were on magnetic drums. A digital announcement can be started anytime you need it. So you can make it say 6 anytime you want it to. But with magnetic drums, you had physical machines with the drums turning around constantly. And if you wanted to use the digit 5, for example, it was on a track and it was always going
5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5.
Like that. So if you wanted to piece it into a report, you had to cut into the track that was already playing at precisely the right time so that it would say the digit on time. This is why the old AIS is very rhythmic in the way it announced a number. They couldn't go 555 2 3 6 8. It had to be 555 2 3 6 8. They were limited by that technology, so they made it sound as good as it could, given the fact that it was going to be announcing the digits every half second. In order to make this work, the rule for AIS was that every phrase was either 500 milliseconds, a half second, or 1500 milliseconds, 1.5 seconds, and that was precise. So if you're going to clip the phrases out to piece together individually, you have to make damn sure that each phrase that you clip out is exactly 500 milliseconds or 1500 milliseconds. The digits are 500, of course. The phrases like the number you have reached and has been changed are 1500. And then for the space, well, you want to have a 500 millisecond space and a 1500 millisecond space because both are used. So these phrases that I have clipped out, if I were to save them in a file, they are absolutely useless. You can't make it sound right using these clip outs that I've just done because none of them are 500 milliseconds exactly. And so you would have to go back to the material from which I took them out and do it right this time. And if you do it right, then each phrase that you isolate is either 500 milliseconds or 1500. I'm going to go back and cut the phrases out again. This time, every phrase will be the right amount of time, 1500 or 500 exactly. Here's what you get.
The number you have reached, 555 2341, has been changed. The number you have reached, 555 2341, has been changed.
You know, that sounds so much better that you might be tempted to think that that's the key to the whole thing. It's not. In fact, let me say right here that if you really want to harvest phrases for doing AIS reports, do it like this. For example, if you want to get the level inflection 5, save it in its complete context. Don't do this.
5
Instead, do this.
355
Please. That
355
is a useful piece of raw material from which to get
5
the level inflection 5 that's in the middle. If you save it that way, then you're not subject later to your alignment errors when you clipped the phrases out. And you won't even know about the alignment errors until you've done all this work, and then you try to put it together, and somehow it's not going to sound right, especially if you've got 6s and 7s. Now, this is something that the Autochron company learned probably in the 1950s. And I'm sure they learned the hard way. I learned it myself when I began working with digits in the early 1980s. I actually hadn't realized this in the 70s. But here's the problem. In fact, let me just show you. I'm going to go get some 7s and some 8s. And there's a reason why I'm choosing the digits 7 and 8. I'm going to put each one in a 500 millisecond file by itself. Now, if we're going to say 870, 7870, let's see how that sounds.
The number you have reached, 870 7870, has been changed. The number you have reached, 870 70 has been changed.
This is the other problem. This is what Autocron learned pretty early on. The word 7 and the word 6 have a leading S sound. Words like 8 and O do not have a leading consonant. The full voice tone is there at the very beginning. 8, O. Contrast that with 6, 7. If you're going to line up the digits so that they are spoken in a rhythm that doesn't sound all lopsided like what you just heard there, you have to back time for the leading S sound on the 6 and the 7. I kid you not, it really is necessary. So not only does it have to be 500 milliseconds exactly, but you have to allow lead time for the S on the 6 and the 7, and then use those as the reference to line everything else up so that they come out right. I discovered this when I was making a voice response system in the 1980s. So that's the other problem, and that's why I recommend keeping your raw material untrimmed so that you can get what you really need, because if you trim it, you better make sure you have it right, because then you have to go back and gather it again if you don't. And that's the problem with this listener who tried to put together an AIS report. I said, send me your raw material, and he did. His raw material is edited without the context, and I literally cannot put it together correctly using that raw material. He has to go get it again from the original tapes, and hopefully he won't have to start from scratch. Now, when I look at the sound in a sound editor, I can actually see, and I do mean see with my eyes, the beginning and end of each of those number phrases. And if you can see it really clearly and you're sure where the break is from one phrase to another, then maybe you can get away with pre-isolating the phrases. But boy, I wouldn't. It's a lot of trouble to gather all that sound raw material into one place. So I would definitely leave it untrimmed just to make sure you can use it. Now, I know people are going to do this and have been doing it, and you might as well do it right because it takes just as much work to do it wrong as to do it right. So to round out the discussion on making it authentic, let's talk about the silence in the middle of the AIS report.
1080. Please make a note of it.
This silence.
355.
That is a phrase, or actually it's a track on the magnetic drum. Just like the phrases, it just has nothing recorded there, but it does have the same white noise, and it has background noise of other phrases leaking through, especially in Atlanta.
Please make a note of it.
You see, it's not silent at all. Now, I took a 1500 millisecond section of it and am looping it. And you know, it sounds like it's a little long. So another complicating factor may be that the machine may have been running a little fast so that the 1500 millisecond phrases were really like 1470 or something. Just another pain in the ass problem if you're going to make it authentic. But the other thing you need to consider is that there is a 500 millisecond pause before a number is started and in the middle of the number, and during that time it uses this very track. It's just that right before the number it uses the first 500 milliseconds of this track, and in the middle of the number it uses the middle 500 milliseconds. Now, on some AISs you can actually hear the difference. Macon, for example, a Weathercron AIS, which no one in his right mind would simulate, but hey, just to show you.
The number you have reached, 5341031, has been disconnected. 5341031 has been disconnected.
All right, so Macon's silence. That's the full 1500 milliseconds looping. And that's what plays in the middle of a report. But when it starts to say the number again, it plays the first 500 milliseconds of that. Then in the middle of the phone number, it plays the second 500 milliseconds of that same phrase, which sounds like this. And you see, they do sound different. So if you're going to be fully authentic, you have to have the full 1500 milliseconds, the first 500 to go before a phone number, and the second 500 milliseconds to go in the middle of a phone number. And here again is the unedited recording of Macon, and you can actually tell that there is a difference between those two. Listen to the so-called silence after the number you have reached and also in the middle of the number, and you'll see it's not the same silence.
The number you have reached, 5341031, has been disconnected. 5341031.
Note also that the long pause in the middle of the report
Has been disconnected. 534.
usually, and I do mean usually because not all reports say phone numbers, but usually it's the full 1500 plus the initial 500 again because it's starting to say a number, so it actually stays on there for 2 whole seconds.
Has been disconnected. 534. Please make a note of it. 355.
Now, if you were doing this with a Jane AIS, to be fully authentic, you would have to pay attention to this, although it wouldn't be as noticeable if you didn't. So those are all the details that would be required to make it fully authentic. Not all of these do you necessarily have to pay attention to make it sound good, but the AIS, especially in its original incarnation in Hempstead, was truly a thing of beauty, and I hope that if you're going to take the trouble to simulate it, you don't make an abomination.
When they first put the one in here in Atlanta, the levels were just abominable.
Remember, when you're simulating AIS, Jane is watching you and cringing from heaven if you don't do a good job. Better too much information than too little, right?
Because I get me every now and then, and I sort of back into a corner and cringe.
See you guys later.